The largest land animal alive today weighs about 6 tons, but millions of years ago, creatures walked the earth that were 10, even 15 times heavier. And one of them was a rhinoceros taller than a house. And the strange thing is, it didn't even have horns. Paraceratherium, the hornless rhino that changed the idea of how big a land animal could be. Picture a giraffe, but built like a tank. Then add another 4 tons. That's Paraceratherium. It stood more than 5 meters tall at the shoulder and could weigh up to 17 tons, making it one of the largest land mammals ever to exist. No horns, no armor, just enormous size. About 25 million years ago, it roamed the forests of Central Asia. It fed from treetops, reaching branches like a living crane. Its legs were as thick as tree trunks, and its long neck stretched toward canopies most animals could never reach. And here's the interesting part. It didn't really need to fight. No predators hunted it, and nothing challenged it. Its size alone was its protection, and that was more than enough. But as enormous as it was, it still wasn't the largest mammal that ever lived. That title likely belongs to Paleoloxodon pneumaticus, the Asian straight-tusked elephant, a relative of modern elephants that may have weighed up to 22 tons. Even so, Paraceratherium dominated its environment. Then the climate began to change. Forests became thinner, food became scarcer, and eventually the giant disappeared. The throne of giants seemed empty, but long before that, something far bigger had already taken it. Because mammals were never the true champions of size. Long before them, something walked the earth that almost sounds impossible. Argentinosaurus. A dinosaur so massive it's hard to imagine. More than 30 meters long and close to 100 tons. About the weight of 14 elephants combined into one moving mountain. Its fossils were discovered in Argentina in the 1990s. But here's the strange part. Scientists have never found a complete skeleton. Only fragments remain. Enormous vertebrae the size of dining tables and a tibia as thick as a tree trunk. No complete femur has ever been discovered, yet even these fragments reveal an animal pushed to the very limits of biology. To support that massive body, Argentinosaurus had hollow, air-filled bones similar to birds. Its heart had to pump blood through a neck that stretched nearly 10 meters into the air, which raises a question scientists still debate today. How could something this large even stay alive? Every step it took likely shook the ground like a small earthquake. Each breath filled lungs the size of cars. It seems almost impossible and too big to exist. And yet, it did. For millions of years, sauropods like Argentinosaurus ruled the land, turning plants into body mass on a scale never seen again. Then everything changed. For millions of years, giants ruled the planet. Then, in a single geological moment, the asteroid came. About 66 million years ago, the age of dinosaurs ended. But one giant lineage survived. And today, it still walks the earth. The African bush elephant is the largest land animal alive today. Not the biggest ever, but the biggest now. Large males can reach about 6 tons, stand nearly 4 meters tall, and carry tusks weighing more than 100 kilograms each. That's heavier than many cars. But elephants are remarkable for another reason. They might be the only surviving giants that still remember their world. Elephants are intelligent, emotional, and deeply social animals. They can remember droughts from decades ago, mourn their dead, and communicate using infrasound, vibrations too low for humans to hear. Their trunks are incredible tools of evolution, containing around 150,000 muscle units. Strong enough to uproot trees, yet precise enough to pick a single leaf. Yet even with all that power, elephants are vulnerable. Poaching, habitat loss, and human expansion have pushed them closer to extinction. The giant that survived ancient catastrophes now faces a new threat: us. But giants in Earth's history didn't always look powerful. Sometimes they looked strange. Sometimes terrifying. Sometimes they came covered in feathers and armed with claws. Argentinosaurus, a dinosaur that almost looks like evolution made a mistake. Picture a creature nearly 10 meters long, even taller than a T-Rex, yet much lighter, probably no more than 5 tons. It had a small head, a round potbelly, and claws that reached almost 1 meter in length. At first glance, it looks like a monster designed to kill, but it wasn't a predator at all. The Argentinosaurus was actually a herbivore, a peaceful giant that just happened to carry claws, like something out of a horror movie. Those massive claws weren't tools for battle. They were used to pull branches closer, strip leaves, and perhaps scare off predators foolish enough to attack. It lived in what is now Mongolia during the late Cretaceous period, moving slowly through forests on thick, column-like legs. Slow, clumsy, and strange. Yet it survived. Sometimes being too bizarre to fight is better than being too weak to escape. And after the dinosaurs disappeared, evolution started experimenting again, this time with mammals. One of the most extraordinary was Megatherium, a sloth the size of an elephant. Yes, the same animal family that gave us today's slow, sleepy tree climbers once produced a 4-ton giant. From nose to tail, it stretched around 6 meters, and when it stood on its hind legs, it could reach nearly 4 meters tall. Its claws were shaped like daggers. With that reach, it could strip an entire tree of leaves in minutes. Megatherium lived across South America until about 10,000 years ago, sharing the land with humans who likely hunted it to extinction. Unlike modern sloths, Megatherium didn't climb trees. It didn't need to. It simply stood upright and pulled the branches down to its level. Efficient, intimidating, and a reminder that evolution rarely follows our expectations. It creates giants wherever they're needed, on land, in the sea, and even in the air. Some of the heaviest creatures ever to walk the earth weren't mammals or reptiles. They were birds. Aepyornis, the elephant bird. A creature so massive it almost feels mythical. It stood around 3 meters tall and weighed more than 500 kilograms, making it the heaviest bird that ever lived. It couldn't fly. It moved slowly, and it looked like a giant feathered tank. But the most shocking thing about it was its eggs. Each egg could weigh up to 10 kilograms, more than 150 times larger than a chicken egg. Crack one open for breakfast, and you could feed an entire village. Aepyornis lived on the island of Madagascar, isolated from predators for millions of years. No lions, no wolves, just forests and safety. That changed when humans arrived about 2,000 years ago. Elephant birds and humans lived alongside each other for nearly 1,000 years before the species finally vanished, sometime between 1000 and 1200 AD. Hunted and stripped of their habitat, they were eventually erased. But Madagascar wasn't the only place hiding giants. Far away in Australia, evolution created something even stranger. Diprotodon, a wombat that never stopped growing. The largest marsupial that ever lived. It weighed around 3 tons and reached about 3 meters long. Imagine a wombat the size of a rhinoceros, with a nose similar to a tapir and a powerful digging feet. For more than 1,000,000 years it roamed Australia, shaping landscapes, clearing paths through forests, and living among other giant animals. Then, around 45,000 years ago, it disappeared. Climate shifts, human hunting, or a combination of both. Scientists are still debating the cause. But the outcome is clear. Australia's megafauna vanished. Today, only fossils, cave paintings, and fragments of history remind us that giants once dominated a land now ruled by much smaller survivors. And not every giant disappeared quietly. Some left behind puzzles that still confuse scientists. One of the strangest was Dinotherium, an elephant that seemed almost designed backwards. Its tusks curved downward from the lower jaw instead of upward like modern elephants. Such a strange feature that researchers have debated its purpose for more than a century. Were they used for digging, pulling bark from trees, or intimidating rivals? No one knows for sure. What we do know is that Dinotherium was enormous, about 4 meters tall and weighing around 10 tons. It roamed Europe, Asia, and Africa for more than 20 million years, surviving while many other giants vanished. Then, roughly 1 million years ago, it quietly disappeared. No massive catastrophe, no dramatic ending. It simply faded away, the same way most giants eventually do. Whether it's an asteroid, climate change, or competition, enormous creatures never rule forever. And it raises an interesting question scientists still ask today. Could giants ever evolve again?